Hi guys, and welcome back to the channel. So in this video I'm going to be going over all of the 4K HD titles in my collection. Apologies if this is going to be a long video. At the time I'm doing this I have no idea how long it's going to take, but yeah, I thought I'd just do a massive video just going through all of the 4K titles that I own. So yeah, all the titles that I'm going to go through in this video, I've seen all of these movies at least once, but it doesn't necessarily mean that I've seen them on 4K yet. I've just bought them on 4K just because I like the movie and I do want to get around to seeing it in that quality eventually. But yeah, that being said, I'm going to get straight through. First up, we've got some just standard releases. Then I'm going to move on to some of the different labels, different box sets, and yeah, just hopefully you'll have a fun time with this video. So yeah, that being said, I'm going to get straight into it with the first title I've got, and it is of course from Fox. A couple of these first ones are from Fox, so yeah, we've got Arnold Schwarzenegger, John McTiernan's Predator. Fantastic sci-fi movie, absolutely exceptional film, the manliest movie probably ever made. Really enjoy this one. So yeah, that's Predator. Next up, another John McTiernan masterpiece, Die Hard. I'm not going to get into whether this is a Christmas movie or not. I watch this every Christmas Eve without fail. I adore this movie. Bruce Willis is absolutely fantastic. This is his best movie ever, hands down. I don't think that's up for debate. It's always going to be Die Hard for me when I think of Bruce Willis. And yeah, Alan Rickman, fantastic as Hans Gruber in this movie. Brilliant villain. Just an all-round pretty solid, flawless movie. Really enjoy it. So yeah, that's Die Hard. Next up, we've got the 1995 Best Picture winner, Mel Gibson's Braveheart. Yeah, I really enjoy this movie. I know it's a bit divisive amongst people nowadays, but yeah, I enjoy the movie. I have fun with it. I don't take it too seriously, but yeah, it's an entertaining movie for me, to say the least. So yeah, that's Braveheart. Next up, we've got Ridley Scott's Alien. Yeah, this is a fantastic late 70s movie. Really enjoy this film. Have an absolute blast with it. Great set of characters, great atmosphere, and hopefully we'll be getting James Cameron's sequel to this on 4K very soon. I know a couple of people have already got their hands on it, but yeah, that's Alien. Next up, we've got the James Dean trilogy. So the first one we've got is East of Eden. I really need to give these three movies a rewatch because I just remember them being really great. So yeah, East of Eden's the first one. Next up, we've got probably his most famous movie, Rebel Without a Cause. Yeah, really need to watch this movie again. Great performance from him. And his last film that I have on 4K is Giant as well, with Liz Taylor. So really need to give that one a watch as well. Seen them before, but just not on 4K. Next up, we've got a home run from Martin Scorsese for me, and it is Casino. This looked exceptional on 4K. I watched this back to back with Goodfellas, and this was definitely the better transfer of the two. Absolutely sensational movie, really awesome. I just love the Las Vegas setting in that movie. Next up, another Ridley Scott film from 2000, the Best Picture winner, Gladiator. Yeah, just a really solid, awesome movie. Really enjoy it. I know it's a lot of people say this is their favourite movie of all time. Yeah, for me, it's entertaining. It's just got some great dialogue in it. Really enjoy it. So that's Gladiator. Next up, we've got kind of the sort of Rocky spin-off movies. So we've got the Creed trilogy on 4K. I love all three of these movies. I know a lot of people really sort of, the first one's their favourite. Absolutely understandable. It's probably mine as well. But the sequels aren't to be turn your nose up at either. I enjoy all three of these movies. I know part 3 seems to be the weakest for a lot of people, but yeah, I need to sit down and binge watch these three. So yeah, that's the Creed trilogy. Next up, with Keanu Reeves and Sandra Bullock, Dennis Hopper, we've got Speed. Absolutely exceptional movie, so entertaining. Really enjoy it. Just yeah, great little action movie from 1994. Next up, we've got what I consider to be one of the most pioneering movies ever to come out of the 80s. This just broke new ground, in my opinion, anyway. And it is Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Just this blend of live action and animation. I know it had been done before, but I just don't think it had been done on to this scale. It was pretty much the whole movie. Yeah, I just adore this film. I have such a fun time with it, and Judge Doom, Christopher Lloyd, scared me shitless as a kid. Next up, we've got one of my favourite Tim Burton movies of all time, starring Michael Keaton, and that is Beetlejuice. I really didn't know what to make of this movie the first time I saw it when I was a kid, but I love this movie now. It's a perfect 10 out of 10. I just absolutely adore it. Or even though Beetlejuice is probably in the movie for about 15 minutes of its runtime altogether, yeah, it's just so fun, so funny. Really, really enjoy it. Next up, we've got Sam Raimi's Spider-Man trilogy. I really enjoy these movies, even the third one. Second one's my favourite, but they're silly, goofy comic book movies. I really, really enjoy them. The third one, it's definitely the weakest, but there's still a lot going on in that film that I enjoy. I just have an entertaining time with it. So that's the Spider-Man trilogy. Next up, from 1983, we've got, I want to say, Bob Clark's A Christmas Story. Yeah, this was one I was very, very late to the party to. And yeah, I enjoy this movie about this kid who wants to get this BB gun for Christmas, but everyone says the same thing to him. You're going to end up shooting your eye out. And yeah, it's just a fun little movie. Really, really enjoy the characters in this one. So one I watch every December. So yeah, that's A Christmas Story. Next up, from Lionsgate, we've got the Steelbook of Dirty Dancing with Jennifer Grey and Patrick Swayze. I enjoy this movie. I have fun with it. Patrick Swayze, for me, is probably the best part of the movie. I like him as this sort of bad guy who's like wrong side of the tracks kind of dancer, and you've got Bebe's character who's kind of just like, she's kind of like this good girl, and she's like really intrigued by this style of dancing that he does. And yeah, I just think the two of them have amazing chemistry in this movie. The soundtrack, love it or hate it, I'm in the love it camp. Really enjoyed the songs in this movie, but not the best 4K transfer, it's got to be said. So yeah, that's Dirty Dancing. Next up, we have one of my favourite alien movies from the 90s, Independence Day. Yeah, great cast of characters in this movie. I just absolutely love this film. It's over the top, it's cheesy, but the movie definitely has heart to it. And it's a pretty solid 4K transfer as well. I remember this looking quite good. So yeah, that's Independence Day. Next up, we have my favourite vampire film of all time, and it is the Steelbook of Fright Night. Yeah, I can't praise this movie enough. I absolutely love and adore this film, as anyone who knows me will tell you. Yeah, it's one of the best horror films to come out of the 80s. Although it doesn't scare me, I still just have this amazing comfort factor that this movie just draws me into. I love it. I can just rewatch this movie so many times, and I'll watch it so many more times in the future. So yeah, that's Fright Night. Next up, we've got a Christmas staple from Chris Columbus, written and produced by John Hughes, Home Alone. Yeah, this is an exceptional 4K transfer. The movie just looks stunning and gorgeous. Really, really enjoy this film. The only thing is I love the movie that much. I just feel I'm tied to the month of December where I can only watch it. So I have to give it a miss 11 months of the year. But yeah, it's just a great family movie. Really, really entertaining stuff. So yeah, that's Home Alone. Next up, we've got a movie that's just an absolute staple from my childhood. It's not a great movie, but yeah, Space Jam. I just have fun with this film. It's the story and the plot is nothing new or different. It just does what it does on the tin. But yeah, great soundtrack as well. So that's Space Jam. And next up, we have the very first film that I ever saw at the cinema, and that is the Tim Burton produced The Nightmare Before Christmas. Yeah, just a great stop motion animation movie with some great songs in it. The coming together of these two universes of Halloween and Christmas. Yeah, just a really, really fun movie. Really enjoy it. So, yeah, that's The Nightmare Before Christmas. Next up from James Cameron, we have Titanic. This again was an exceptional looking 4K. I absolutely loved it. I loved the movie. I think it's great. For a 3-hour movie, the runtime just flies by for me. I just adore this film. I just think it's fantastic. So, yeah, that's Titanic. Next up, we've got Cameron Crowe's Almost Famous. Again, another sort of 3-hour runtime. I think that's a director's cut as well that just absolutely flies by. Yeah, just an amazing story about this kid who wants to be this journalist, and he gets this opportunity of a lifetime to go on tour with this band. And yeah, it's just the relationships and the journey that this character goes on. You just absolutely love the film. It's great. So much rewatch factor with this film as well. So yeah, that's Almost Famous. Next up, we have Clint Eastwood's In the Line of Fire. I know he didn't direct it, but he's in the movie. And yeah, John Malkovich absolutely terrified me as a kid in this film. Really, really enjoy it. Next up, we've got a movie that I'm not completely in love with. I just think this movie's okay, but the more and more I rewatch it, the more and more I like it more and more, and it is V for Vendetta, Natalie Portman, Hugo Weaving. I'm due a rewatch, I think, because the last time I watched it, I was quite impressed with it, but again, it's just sort of remembering what I liked about it as time goes on. But need to give it a rewatch soon, so that's V for Vendetta. Next up, we've got probably one of my favourite movies from the Coens, and that is The Big Lebowski. I hated this movie the first time I saw it, but over time I've grown to love it. I just think the dialogue in this movie is absolutely hilarious. So yeah, that's The Big Lebowski. Next up, we've got another childhood staple of mine, and I think this 4K looks pretty good despite the movie having some very dated CGI, and that is Jumanji. Especially the animals in this movie just don't look great. They just don't hold up. The stampede and the monkeys. It's a fun movie though. It's I guess it's like an original movie with Robin Williams from the 90s that I just loved, because for me, Robin Williams was just hot shit in the 90s. I just wanted to see anything he was in. Mrs. Doubtfire, Flubber, and Jumanji. I was just, for better or for worse with those movies, I was just... He had that star power that just absolutely drew me. I think it was him and Jim Carrey, who were just two of my favourite comedic actors of the time. But yeah, Jumanji, still a good looking 4K despite some dated CGI. Next up, we have all 4 chapters of the John Wick movies. Yeah, I've only seen the 4th one on 4K out of this disc, because that was the one I really wanted to rewatch when this set came out. But I do plan on watching all 4 of these back to back someday, because these are just some of the best modern day action movies ever made, and if the 4K is anything to go by on the 4th movie, I think I'm in a treat with the first 3. So yeah, that's the John Wick movies. Next up, we've got the Best Picture winner from 1992, and it is Clint Eastwood's Unforgiven. One of my favourite westerns from the 90s. I know pretty much the genre was on the way out in that sort of time period. There were some great ones, definitely, but yeah, this is one of the best, Unforgiven, with an absolutely exceptional cast. Next up, we've got, I'll go on record for saying this for me is one of the best 4Ks there is, and it's an exceptional movie. It is Stand By Me. Clocks in at about, I think, just around 90 minutes. It doesn't, it feels longer, but that's a good thing. There's just nothing about this movie that ever gets boring. It's just, it uses the best of what it has on offer. Everything about this movie just looks so natural, because it's pretty much entirely outdoors. It's just a gorgeous, gorgeous, stunning movie. The blue skies, the green trees just look so elevated with this format. So if you haven't got this on 4K and you love the movie, do yourself a favour because it's just absolutely exceptional. So yeah, that's Stand By Me. Not one of my favourite movies from the 80s, but I did want to upgrade this from the DVD, and it is The Karate Kid. Yeah, like I said, not one of my go-tos, but I did just want to get it on 4K because I wanted to give it a rewatch at some point. So yeah, that's The Karate Kid. Next up from BFI, we've got an early 80s movie from Bill Forsyth, and that is Gregory's Girl, set in Scotland. I know a lot of people I know have a lot of nostalgia for this movie. I was very late to the party with this film, but I can definitely see why it kind of reminds people of, you know, taking them back to the school days. And yeah, it's a fun movie with some great dialogue, great characters, and yeah, just a fun movie. So that's Gregory's Girl. Next up, we've got another Christmas staple for me, and that is National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. Yeah, the 4K on this I think looks pretty good. It's an enjoyable film. It's very, very rewatchable, but again, similar to Home Alone, I'm just tied to that 1 month of the year when I can watch this movie because it's seasonal. So yeah, that's Christmas Vacation. Next up, we've got a sequel, but I will get to the original film a bit later on, as I have that on in a special edition box set. So this next one we have is Jaws 2. This looked really good on 4K. I enjoyed watching this back to back with the first one. I've always seen Jaws 2 as a teen sex comedy without the sex or the comedy, and a shark just thrown in. Yeah, it's just void of that type of humour from teen sex comedies, but it just reminds me of one. Don't know why, it just does. But yeah, for me, this movie, probably the best thing about this movie is Tina, because she generally just looks like a girl who's had to watch her boyfriend be swallowed by a shark. But yeah, it's not as good as the original, but it's still a fun sequel. I have fun with this movie, so that's Jaws 2. Next up, we've got Steven Spielberg's Duel. I'm yet to watch this on 4K, but again, this wasn't a movie that was love at first sight for me. I've grown to like it over rewatches. So again, I think with this movie being shot mainly outdoors, with it being a chase between a car and a truck, I think the natural lighting will really, really lend to the 4K transfer when I do see this. So yeah, that's Duel. Next up, we've got another Spielberg movie that I'm yet to see on 4K, but I have seen the film, and that is The Colour Purple. Again, similar to Duel, I think this is going to have some amazing outdoor scenes that are just going to lend to 4K. So, yeah, that's The Colour Purple. Next up, we have Tarantino's Reservoir Dogs. Not my favourite Tarantino movie, but this is still very, very good. It's got some amazing dialogue in it, but yeah, yet to see it on 4K. So that's Reservoir Dogs. Not an amazing 4K, this next one, but it's certainly an amazing film, and that is Michael Mann's Heat. Pacino and De Niro, what more could you ask for? Backed up by an exceptional supporting cast. Yeah, just one of the best heist movies ever. Really, really enjoy this one. So that's Heat. Next up, we have a movie that's not loved by many, despite the talent involved in the movie, but this is one of my favourite vampire films, and it is Bram Stoker's Dracula. I love and adore this film. Every time I rewatch it, I love it more and more. I know I'm in a minority when I say that, but yeah, I just click with this movie. I just love it. All the stuff with Lucy as well, when she turns into a vampire, just terrified me when I was younger. But yeah, really, really enjoy this one. So it's Francis Ford Coppola's Bram Stoker's Dracula. Next up, we've got an exceptional movie, and again, the transfer on this is exceptional to match the quality of the film as well, and it is John Carpenter's The Thing. An amazing movie, but yeah, wasn't love at first sight for me as well. Did not like this movie at all the first time I saw it. Rewatches over time, yeah, it's a masterpiece now. It's just absolutely phenomenal. Well, a masterpiece in terms of practical effects, but it's still a very, very awesome, solid movie. So yeah, that's John Carpenter's The Thing. Next up, we have Christian Bale in American Psycho. Yep, this is a fun movie. It's definitely a sort of weirder movie as well, but it's just got some amazing dialogue in it that I just absolutely love. So yeah, that's American Psycho. And next up, I'm yet to check out the 4K transfer on this, but it is Harrison Ford and Tommy Lee Jones in The Fugitive. Exceptional movie, great chase movie, suspenseful thriller, absolutely fantastic film. But yeah, yet to check out the 4K transfer on this one. So yeah, that's The Fugitive. So moving into now some of the 4Ks from Studio Canal that I have. Some of these are standard releases and some of these are boxed special editions. So the first one we've got is David Lynch's The Elephant Man, a fantastic movie this, absolutely exceptional. Haven't seen the 4K transfer yet myself, but I wanted to upgrade this from the DVD I had. I've heard it's one of the best out there, so yeah, that's The Elephant Man. Next up, we've got an anthology movie based on a Stephen King novel, and that is Cat's Eye. Yeah, fun horror anthology film. I think it's pretty much 3 stories in this, but yeah, really enjoy it. Have fun with this one. So yeah, that's Cat's Eye. Next up, we've got Michael Douglas and Sharon Stone in Basic Instinct. This is a fun little kind of big budget erotic thriller. Yeah, really have fun with this film. I think the 2 leads have, give great performances. It's a good Paul Verhoeven movie. So yeah, that's Basic Instinct. Next up, we've got, in my opinion, an underrated Stallone film, and that is Lock Up. Need to check this out on 4K, as again, this was another upgrade from DVD, but yeah, solid film in my opinion. That's Lock Up. Next up, we have Arnold Schwarzenegger in Raw Deal. Not one of my favourite Schwarzenegger movies, but it does have something about this that keeps me coming back. I do enjoy it. I do enjoy that final act in the movie as well, when he's driving around in the car listening to the Rolling Stones. But yeah, that's Raw Deal. And again, kind of like a similar, not one of my favourite Schwarzenegger movies, but we have Red Heat as well. I enjoy this movie. I probably prefer it over Raw Deal, but it's fun. I enjoy it. Him and Belushi's got great chemistry in the movie. So yeah, that's Red Heat. Next up, we've got Jean-Claude Van Damme and Dolph Lundgren in Universal Soldier. Again, this was another upgrade from a DVD that I wanted to get on 4K. So yeah, need to give this one a watch soon. So that's Universal Soldier. Next up, we have Sofia Coppola's The Virgin Suicides. I remember enjoying this one. It was a teenage drama. And yeah, just need to give it on 4K because pretty similar. It was an upgrade from the DVD. So that's The Virgin Suicides. Next up, this was a first time watch for me towards the tail end of last year, and it is Cutthroat Island. I had fun with this film. It's far from perfect. The runtime is a little bit bloated, but yeah, I had fun with it nonetheless. It's definitely not a great movie, but I was entertained enough. So yeah, that's Cutthroat Island. Same can be said really for this next one. I didn't think this movie was amazing, but I had fun with the cast in it, and that is U-571. Yeah, just an alright submarine little war movie. Enjoyed it for what it was. It didn't blow my socks off or anything, but yeah, that's U-571. Next up, this is a Christmas staple for me, but it's not a great movie, I must admit, and it is Santa Claus, the movie with Dudley Moore. Yeah, it's always one of those movies that was on around Christmas when I was a child on TV every year without fail, but I never watched it in full up until recently, just because, again, it was another one of these movies I was late to the party to. But yeah, it's one I watch every Christmas. It's not a great movie on the whole, but I still enjoy it. It's entertaining enough. Next up, we've got Oliver Stone's biopic on Jim Morrison and The Doors. So yeah, this is a really good biopic. Really enjoy this movie. I'm not the biggest Doors fan, but the movie was entertaining enough for me. So yeah, that's The Doors. Next up, we've got a really good horror film, in my opinion. It's not full on outright, violent or gory or anything like that. This heavily relies on atmosphere, but it works for the better. And it is Nicole Kidman in The Others. again, another upgrade from a DVD that I need to watch the 4K transfer on, but I really enjoy the film. So yeah, that's The Others. Next up, we've got hands down my favourite Luc Besson film, as much as I love another movie coming up short next. But yeah, Leon the Professional, absolutely amazing film, top-notch action in my opinion, and for 4K transfers as they go, this for me may be the best New York has ever looked in a movie. And that's saying something. There are some movies out there which really capture New York, but this one for me, I thought New York looked absolutely beautiful in this film. So yeah, that's Leon the Professional. And another Luc Besson movie we've got, I really enjoy this one, and it is The Fifth Element. It's over the top, it's silly in parts, especially all the stuff with Chris Tucker, but I really enjoyed him. I know a lot of people found him annoying, but for me it worked. And yeah, I love the setting of this movie. I love the look of it. I love the story. It's an underrated Bruce Willis film in my opinion. I love, again, similar to Leon, I love Gary Oldman as the villain. So yeah, that's The Fifth Element. Next up, we've got, probably out of these Studio Canal releases, this is the most recent film I watched, and it is One from the Heart. I thought this was okay. Didn't blow me away, didn't blow my socks off or anything like that, but it looked nice. So yeah, that's One from the Heart. Next up, we've got an amazing underrated movie from Jim Jarmusch, starring Forrest Whitaker, and that is Ghost Dog: The Way of the Samurai. Again, sounding like a broken record, this was an upgrade from a DVD, so you need to check this out on 4K. It's an amazing movie. And next up, we've got 4 John Carpenter movies. We're starting off firstly with The Fog. Yeah, John Carpenter absolutely nails atmosphere in this film. It is a stunning looking 4K. Yeah, really enjoy this one. So that's The Fog. Next up, we have Escape from New York. Kurt Russell as Snake Plissken. Yeah, really awesome, solid Carpenter movie. Really enjoy this one. Next up, we have, sort of coming towards the tail end of the 80s with these next two, we have Prince of Darkness. Looks awesome on 4K. Really enjoy this film. It's probably one of Carpenter's most underrated films. So yeah, that's Prince of Darkness. And next up, we have They Live, a movie that's still relevant to this day. It has one of the most entertaining fight sequences in a movie. And yeah, just a really fun premise. The only thing, I just find the ending's a little bit abrupt for me, but yeah, I just really enjoy Roddy Piper in this movie. Awesome little sci-fi action film. So moving into some of the boxed special editions now. The first one we have from Studio Canal is Donald Sutherland in Don't Look Now. Yeah, again, another DVD that I needed to upgrade to 4K because I just wanted to see what it was like eventually. So decided to go all out on this box set. So yeah, that's Don't Look Now. Same thing can be exactly said for this next film, and it is The Deer Hunter, the best picture from '78. Need to get round to watching this on 4K. It's a bit of a lengthy movie. The wedding at the start of this film feels like you are actually at a wedding, just with how it plays out. It just goes on forever. But second half of the movie's where it's at for me. So yeah, that's The Deer Hunter. Next up, we have Joe Dante's The Howling. Yeah, again, same thing as the first two. Really enjoy the film. It's not as good as American Werewolf in London in my opinion, but I think comparing the two is inevitable, but I try not to. But yeah, it's The Howling. It's a fun little werewolf movie. Next up, we've probably got my second favourite Paul Verhoeven film of all time, and it is Arnold Schwarzenegger in Total Recall. The reds of Mars just absolutely heat up the TV for me with this movie. They look absolutely exceptional. It's a great looking 4K. Just, yeah. I can't praise the movie enough. I absolutely love it. It's just a great sci-fi action film. absolutely exceptional. So yeah, that's Total Recall. Next up, with Christopher Lambert and Sean Connery, we have Highlander. A movie, again, not love at first sight with this one, but I am liking it a hell of a lot more as I rewatch the movie. It's got a great soundtrack by Queen as well, and yeah, just one of the most heartbreaking openings to a movie. Absolutely love this film. So yeah, it's Highlander. Next up, we have the campy but enjoyable Flash Gordon. Yeah, this was a fun movie. It's definitely not perfect, but it tries to accomplish a lot with its limitations, but it's fun, it's tongue-in-cheek. Similar to the Santa Claus, I always remember this movie being on a lot on television, but I just never watched the movie in full as much as I wanted to. But yeah, it's in a nice set. Everything in here is just absolutely gorgeous, and yeah, so that's Flash Gordon. Next up, we've got an absolutely underrated film, in my opinion, from Francis Ford Coppola. The cast in this movie, too many names to mention, and it is The Outsiders. Yeah, really, really solid looking 4K, this one. A great double bill with Rumblefish, and yeah, it's just exceptional. The cast is just absolutely phenomenal. Great looking 4K as well. So yeah, that's The Outsiders. And next up, again, similar to most titles, haven't watched the 4K yet, upgraded it from a DVD. We have the Vintage Classics box edition of The Wicker Man. Great horror film with Christopher Lee. One of the best folk horror films ever. I really enjoyed Midsommar as well, and I think it was very much cut from the same cloth as this. Really, really enjoy this film. Really, really creepy in parts. So yeah, that is The Wicker Man. So going up next, we're going into pretty much the bulk of my Paramount collection now on 4K. So starting off with some steelbooks, we have Matthew Broderick in Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Yeah, wanted to check this out on 4K. It looks sensational. Yeah, massive, massive step up from the Blu-ray, this one. So yeah, it's a fun movie. Really, really enjoy it. So yeah, that's Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Next up, we've got a great crime drama from Brian De Palma, and that is The Untouchables. Absolutely exceptional movie with an exceptional cast. Great looking film. So yeah, that's The Untouchables. Next up, we've got one of my favourite comedies of all time. This had me howling. Yeah, it's just such a funny film, and it is Leslie Nielsen in The Naked Gun. Absolutely love this film. Great soundtrack. The humour's on point for me. It really, really works. I just have a blast with this film. So yeah, that's The Naked Gun. Next up, we've got a movie I'm sort of desperate to give a rewatch to, and it is Footloose. I've heard it's not the best 4K transfer, but it's been an age since I've seen the film, so I'm due a rewatch, and I wanted to get the 4K steelbook because I just like the colours used on it. And yeah, it just looks really nice in my opinion. So that's Footloose. Next up, we've got another one of my favourite Tim Burton movies, and it is Sleepy Hollow. The 4K of this looks absolutely sensational. It's just, for a movie that's, it borderline feels like a black and white movie. It's, apart from the reds in this film, the reds are just so vibrant. All the bloods in the movie just really, really pop. But yeah, it's just an exceptional looking 4K. It's a dimly lit movie. It's very sort of, it has this very, very cold atmosphere to it, but it just lends itself to 4K so well in my opinion. So yeah, that's Sleepy Hollow. So moving into some more of the standard releases now. This next movie, it kills me that I don't have a slipcover for this film, because pretty much all the other Paramount releases I do have a slip for. But yeah, this is the only one I'm missing, and it is Grease. Yeah, I did not like this movie the first time I saw it, but I've grown to really, really enjoy it. Although there's some questionable things that go on in the plot of this film about maybe this relationship and about changing yourself to try and please someone else. Yeah, I get all that, but there's something very, very likable about it. I really like the aesthetics to the movie. Really like some of the songs as well. Yeah, it's a fun time for me, so that's Grease. Next up, we've got, for me, this is the best horror film to come out of the 90s, and it is Wes Craven's Scream. Yeah, really, really solid film series. I don't think there's a bad one in there, but yeah, this for me, it will forever be the best. So that's Scream. Next up, we've got a really decent follow-up with Scream 2, and a nice looking 4K as well. Really, really fun slasher film. So yeah, that's Scream 2. And next up, keeping in line with that, we have Scream 3. So yeah, this movie is probably the weakest out of the Scream movies for me. It's still very, very enjoyable. I enjoyed it on a whole new level watching it on 4K. It's a bit dafter, it's a bit sillier for me personally compared to the first two, but yeah, on rewatch I enjoyed it a hell of a lot more, but it still has its problems. So yeah, that's Scream 3. So next up, we'll be going into the Star Trek universe. The first one we've got is Star Trek: The Motion Picture. Yeah, bit of a slow movie. I think this movie was trying to be more like Stanley Kubrick's 2001, but I enjoy this movie. I enjoy Jerry Goldsmith's score. I think it's absolutely fantastic. So yeah, that's Star Trek: The Motion Picture. Star Trek II: Wrath of Khan. One of the best entries into the series, in my opinion, although not my favourite. Really, really solid movie. Really, really enjoy it. So that's Star Trek II: Wrath of Khan. Star Trek III: The Search for Spock. Probably the most underrated film out of the series. Really, really fun. Really, really enjoyable, but it's not as good as the second one. So yeah, that's Star Trek III: The Search for Spock. Star Trek IV: The Voyage Home. Really, really solid film. Really, really enjoyable. Yeah, just have fun with this one. It's kind of like a fish out of water tale, watching the crew of the Enterprise, sort of modern day San Francisco at the time. Yeah, enjoy it. It's the one with everyone refers to this one as the one with the whales. So yeah, that's Star Trek IV: The Voyage Home. Star Trek V: The Final Frontier. Arguably probably the worst in the series, but for me, I still really enjoy it. I enjoy all 10 of these films on some level, for better or for worse, but yeah, really enjoy it. I'm glad to see Jerry Goldsmith's main theme as well come back at the opening of this one. Star Trek VI: The Undiscovered Country. My personal favourite out of the original run of Star Trek films. Really, really enjoy this one. Sort of, yeah, really enjoy watching Kirk and Bones sort of get framed for this assassination attempt. Yeah, really, really solid film, and yeah, my personal favourite out of the original 10. So Star Trek VI: The Undiscovered Country. Star Trek Generations. This was kind of the bridge between the original cast and the Next Generation cast. Yeah, enjoy the film. It's not perfect, but yeah, very, very enjoyable. I like Malcolm McDowell as the villain. So that's Star Trek Generations. Star Trek First Contact, probably the best of the Next Gen movies in my opinion. Really, really enjoy it. Star Trek Insurrection. I remember seeing this movie at the cinema, but I remember nothing about it. And yeah, haven't watched it since. So since picking this up on 4K, need to give the 4K a rewatch. So yeah, Star Trek Insurrection. And then to wrap the Star Trek movies off on 4K, we have Star Trek Nemesis. Yeah, not one of the best, but still very, very enjoyable. I enjoyed it for what it was. So yeah, Star Trek Nemesis. Next up, we've got a movie that I think would be a Christmas staple for the majority of people. But for me, I just don't love this movie as much as some people. I do think it is a good film, don't get me wrong. But we have Frank Capra's It's a Wonderful Life. It's a good movie, but it just doesn't have the rewatch factor for me at all. So, yeah, I don't know. I kind of skip this movie at some Christmases. It's not one I watch every Christmas. But, yeah, enjoy it for what it is. So, that's It's a Wonderful Life. Next up, we have the Best Picture winner from '83, and that is Terms of Endearment. Really, really tearjerker movie, this one. Right at the end. Enjoy the supporting cast in this as well. Jeff Daniels, Jack Nicholson. Yeah, it's a good movie. Next up, we've got, now this is a Christmas staple for me, and it is Richard Donner's Scrooged with Bill Murray. Completely different take and breathing new life into the Charles Dickens tale of A Christmas Carol, in my opinion. A very, very fun film and original as well. So, yeah, that is Scrooged. John Landis's comedy next in Trading Places with Dan Aykroyd and Eddie Murphy. Jamie Lee Curtis as well. Yeah, it's kind of a bit of a mixed movie for me, this one. I didn't like it at first, then I did. There's things I like about this movie and there's things I don't. But yeah, overall, glad to own it on 4K. So that's Trading Places. Next up, we've got one of my favourite comedies from the early 90s with Mike Myers, and it is Wayne's World. 4K, this is just absolutely exceptional. Very, very fun film. Really, really enjoy it. I actually prefer the sequel to the original, but I do think the original's a better film. But the second one I just find more entertaining. Next up, we've got a disaster movie with Deep Impact. I need to check this one out on 4K because it was an upgrade from a DVD. Same again for this next one. We have The Core, another disaster movie that I need to check out on 4K. Next up with Tom Cruise, we have The Firm. I need to check this one out on 4K also. I remember enjoying it for what it was, but yeah, just wanted to upgrade it from that DVD. Flashdance from '83. Yeah, really, really love the score on this one. Hearing it on 4K was absolutely brilliant. I love the opening to this movie, the opening credits. Irene Cara's What a Feeling, the Flashdance song. Yeah, it's great. I love that song. But yeah, it's a fun movie, Flashdance. This next one this is high on my rewatch list because I haven't seen this again since DVD, and it is Saturday Night Fever, John Travolta. Yeah, need to give this one a rewatch on 4K and see what the transfer is like. Same again for this next one. I didn't like this movie the first time I saw it, but on rewatch, I really appreciated it on a whole different level. Tom Cruise, Jamie Foxx in Collateral. So yeah, need to give the 4K this one a rewatch. Sort of a second tier, in my opinion, of Schwarzenegger movies. It's not one of my favourites. It's definitely not one of his worst. But we have Schwarzenegger in The Running Man. This is a fun movie. Really, really enjoy it. But yeah, there's a hell of a lot more Schwarzenegger movies I enjoy more than this one. So yeah, that's The Running Man. Hands down for me next, my favourite Tarantino movie. The slipcover on this is absolutely gorgeous, and it is Pulp Fiction. Yeah, Tarantino's most rewatchable film for me. I can just watch this over and over again for a 2.5-hour runtime. It feels like 90 minutes. I just, yeah, adore this film. So that's Pulp Fiction. Pretty solid little crime thriller next. We have Double Jeopardy, Ashley Judd, Tommy Lee Jones. Really enjoy this one about a woman who's sent to prison for murdering her husband. And yeah, she kind of finds out that he's still alive. So yeah, really, really fun film, little suspenseful thriller. Enjoyed it. Next up from Wes Craven, we have Red Eye. Yeah, really, really fun suspenseful movie that takes place on a plane. Kind of in the same vein as Flight Plan that came out with Jodie Foster. I enjoyed both those movies. But yeah, this is a good one. That's Red Eye. Sort of following into Jim Carrey's career now and taking a bit more of a serious tone. And it's definitely one of his better movies, and that is The Truman Show. Really, really solid film. Really enjoy this one. Great story and great premise. So yeah, that's The Truman Show. Next up from Roman Polanski, we've got a great horror film to come out of the late 60s, and that is Rosemary's Baby. The ending to this is just absolutely horrifying for all the right reasons, despite it not being gory or jumpy or anything like that. It's all about atmosphere with this film. So yeah, that's Rosemary's Baby. Next up, we've got a double pack of 48 Hours and another 48 Hours. Not my favourite Eddie Murphy movies, it's got to be said for me. I do think him and Nick Nolte have great chemistry in these films, but the next ones I've got probably are right up there, some of my favourite Eddie Murphy films. So, yeah, those are the 48 Hours movies. Next up, we've got... I wanted more from this box set. It is quite nice. It comes in a nice slip box. But we have the 3-movie collection of the Beverly Hills Cop trilogy. Love all 3 of these movies, although some are better than others. Yeah, I just have an absolute blast with them. The second one was probably the worst looking 4K, but the first blew me away. And the third one's really good as well. So, yeah, it's a bit of a steep price at over £60, I think, just for the 4Ks. But, yeah, I really, really enjoy this trilogy, and I can't wait for the 4th one. So, yeah, that's the Beverly Hills Cop trilogy. Next up is another movie from John Carpenter with Kurt Russell. I'm dying to sort of give this one a rewatch because I think people have kind of found a new appreciation for it over time. And it is John Carpenter's Escape from LA. Not one of Carpenter's best movies, definitely not his finest hour. But I think there's some things in this movie to get enjoyment from. And yeah, it's not one of Carpenter's best, but I think it can still be very, very entertaining on a different level. So I need to give it a rewatch on 4K. It's been ages since I've seen this. So that's Escape from LA. And next up, we've got a nice, solid, rigid boxed edition of Fatal Attraction, Glenn Close and Michael Douglas. One of the best sort of thrillers, romantic thrillers to come out of the late 80s. Yeah, just a really, really solid film. So that's Fatal Attraction. And next up, we have sci-fi horror movie with a great cast, Event Horizon. So yeah, this again it was kind of a chopped movie. I think we'll never actually get to see the director's full vision of this film, I think, because a lot of the footage got lost or maybe destroyed. But yeah, for what we got, it's some of the violence, it really, really goes for it in this film. But yeah, it's a fun sci-fi movie for what it is. It's not one of my most rewatchable films, but it has a fun cast and a fun premise to it. So yeah, that's Event Horizon. So coming up next, we've got a few miscellaneous titles. First up, we've got a couple of DC EU movies. Not all of them, I've only got a handful. So the first one I've got is The Flash on 4K. Yeah, this is a pretty mixed bag of a movie. I had fun with it. Yeah, just not very rewatchable in my opinion. Probably Michael Keaton's probably the best part about this movie. Next up, we've got Black Adam with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. I thought this movie was okay, to say the least. Just got it as to complete the DCEU, I guess. Now, this next one was a lot of fun. I had a good time with this at the cinema, and it is The Suicide Squad. Fun cast of characters, fun story, turns into a bit of a kaiju movie at the end, and yeah, just enjoyed the movie. So that's The Suicide Squad. And next up from Eureka, we've got a trilogy, and it is with Jackie Chan, and that is the Police Story trilogy. These movies are a hell of a lot of fun, just action-packed, great set pieces, great music. Yeah, just an absolutely blast of a time. The first two for me are really solid. The weakest is probably the third, but it's still very, very enjoyable. But yeah, great to have these on 4K. These movies are just a lot of fun. So that's the Police Story trilogy. Next up from Sony, we've got an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie. It's not a great movie, but it is one of my personal favourites, and that is Last Action Hero. This is a fun sort of jumping in from the world of cinema into reality movie. Really, really good time, and yeah, it's just a fun movie. So that's Last Action Hero. And next up from Universal with Jean-Claude Van Damme, we have Hard Target. So yeah, this includes both movies, but only the first movie is on 4K, the second movie is on Blu-ray. Yeah, this is a fun movie. I haven't seen the second movie yet, but it's a good movie directed by John Woo and one of Van Damme's best. So that's Hard Target. And next up, we've got a 4-film collection from Alfred Hitchcock. So this has Rear Window, Vertigo, Psycho, and The Birds. Some of Hitchcock's best movies. Vertigo might personally be the best 4K I've seen. It looks breathtaking, photogenic, really, really awesome looking 4K. It's one of the best in my opinion. And the others are really good too. So that's the Hitchcock collection. And then next up, got a couple of movies here from '88. House by the Edge of the Park. This is Video Nasty. I quite enjoyed this film. I thought it was pretty good for what it was. Bit of a schlocky movie, but yeah, I thought it was fine. Next up, we have Hell of the Living Dead. Pretty much a Dawn of the Dead rip-off. Had everything that reminded me of Dawn of the Dead apart from that mall setting. Yeah, it lost me a bit as well with it. This movie has a bit of a section in it where it's just archive footage, and it didn't work for me, but I enjoyed the start and the end. So yeah, that's Hell of the Living Dead. Next up, we have Cannibal Holocaust. Essential viewing for any movie fan. Just kidding. But yeah, this movie's brutal. It's not for everyone. It's got some really, really messed up scenes in it if you could stomach it, but yeah, it is what it is, I guess. Cannibal Holocaust. Next up from '88 as well, we have the 4K of Drive. This was a fun Rush Hour-esque type of movie. Really, really enjoyed it. Enjoyed the cast in this as well. So yeah, that's a fun little action film, Drive. And next up, we've got the deluxe boxed edition of Jackie Chan in Dragons Forever. Yeah, this is a fun movie, similar to Police Story. I didn't enjoy it as much as those films, but it's still a very, very solid action movie. Really, really fun. So yeah, that is Dragons Forever. So coming up next, we've got some standalone titles, and the first one I've got is a great little underrated horror film, and that is Hellfest. 4K of this is just absolutely fantastic. I think Keith over Euphoria Pictures has done an absolutely amazing job of showcasing this movie to myself and many others. And yeah, it's just an absolutely outstanding 4K. Great little underrated horror film, so that is Hellfest. And next up, speaking of Keith, we've got two movies that he kindly, very kindly sent me. So we have Mortal Engines. This was a great little dystopian kind of sci-fi film that I enjoyed. And speaking of sci-fi, from Spielberg, Keith also sent me Ready Player One. Haven't checked the 4K out yet, but I enjoyed this movie. One of Spielberg's best in recent years, in my opinion. Coming up next from Pixar, we have Lightyear. Bit disappointed with this film. It wasn't what I wanted it to be. I haven't seen it on 4K yet. But yeah, the movie is what it is, I guess. Next up from Luc Besson, we have Valerian. This movie was visually quite pleasing. Had some interesting concepts in there, but the chemistry between the two leads, the spark they had was about as useful as lighting a firework with water. It just didn't work. It was just absolutely awful. But yeah, I thought some of the visuals were quite interesting. So that's Valerian. Next up, not a great movie, but I'm willing to bet the 4K looks pretty good. Independence Day Resurgence. Yeah, that's all I have to say about it. Next up, we have The Spy Who Dumped Me. So Mila Kunis is great in anything she's in. She's got star power, in my opinion. She's a great draw. Kate McKinnon, for me, is the anal bead of comedy. She's just not funny. Not for me at all. But yeah, just thought the movie was pretty good. So yeah, that's The Spy Who Dumped Me. Next up, we have the Steelbook of Contagion. So yeah, this was a movie that I watched pretty recently. I enjoyed it. It hit a bit too close to home because of pretty much the year that was 2020. But yeah, it's scary how accurate this film kind of was to that sort of scenario. But yeah, it's a good movie. That's Contagion. Next up, we have Five Nights at Freddy's. So this was kind of a bit of a hit and miss horror for me. I think it was very, very restrained. It didn't go full-fledged gore or horror. It had a fun concept though. So that's Five Nights at Freddy's. Next up, we have The Creator. I went to cinema to see this, haven't seen the 4K yet, but thought this was a pretty solid sci-fi film. It didn't blow me away or anything, but it was still pretty good. Next up, we have Thanksgiving. This is probably my favourite horror film of last year. I had a ball with this film. It didn't reinvent the wheel or do anything new, but it scratched that slasher itch that I've just been dying for to have for years. I've just wanted a slasher movie, a whodunit, and this was a very, very satisfying entry. So, yeah, that's Thanksgiving. Next up, we have Wonka with Timothée Chalamet. Very, very visually pleasing movie. Not a patch on the original, but yeah, enjoyed the movie for what it was. So that's Wonka. Next up, sort of going into Oscar territory here, we have Barbie. I guess fun movie, visually pleasing. I enjoyed some of the songs in this, and I liked the story. Yeah, it was a fine movie. That's Barbie. Next up, from Christopher Nolan, just won Best Picture as well for this. We have Oppenheimer. Yeah, a 4K staple. It's very, very good. Pretty much a reference disc for this year anyway. So that's Oppenheimer. Next up, I haven't checked the 4K disc out for this yet, but really enjoyed the film. Martin Scorsese's Killers of the Flower Moon. And really, really solid movie. Didn't like the ending though. If you've seen the movie, you'll probably know which part. Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning, Part 1, even though I think the title of the next movie is changing, but yeah, enjoyed this one. Great entry into the Mission Impossible series. These movies just go from strength to strength, in my opinion. Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. I thought this movie was okay. It didn't feel like Indiana Jones 5, it felt like Kingdom of the Crystal Skull 2, in my opinion, but yeah, it was fine. It was okay. It just went a bit too far, a bit like Crystal Skull did. Next up, we have Gran Turismo. Enjoyed this movie. It was pretty fun. Some great looking car sequences in that movie. One of the best horror films from last year as well, in my opinion, Saw X, or Saw 10. Yeah, really enjoyed this one. Had some great creative decisions, I think, with its characters. Some motivations you could really sort of get behind. One of the best animated movies from last year on 4K, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Mutant Mayhem. Animation style was just really, really good. Absolutely love this steelbook as well. So really, really fun animated movie. Next up, we have Transformers Rise of the Beasts. I'm a massive, massive Beast Wars fan. That was my Transformers growing up as a kid. Apart from some of the characters' names, this was in no way borrowed from that TV show, in my opinion. It didn't have any sort of character development or anything like that, but it was a fun, turn your brain off CGI fest. That's all I can really say about it. Next up as well, we have The Exorcist Believer. Just a bang average horror film for me. Parts of it I liked, parts of it I didn't. Yeah, it wasn't anything great or special. Same can be said for this next one. Adam Driver in 65. Bit lackluster for me, just left a bit to be desired, but it had some cool sequences, I guess. The 4K looks pretty good. In the same vein, and very much cut from the same cloth as Mutant Mayhem, we have Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. Great animated movie. Absolutely loved the end of this movie. It was just an assault on the senses. So, yeah, that's Across the Spider-Verse. A fun movie next that I don't think had any right to be as good as it was. Dungeons and Dragons, Honor Amongst Thieves. Fun cast, fun premise. The movie was just very colourful and joyful and a fun movie. It was a fun time. So that's Dungeons and Dragons, Honor Among Thieves. Bit of a lackluster steelbook, but I really enjoyed this film. Evil Dead Rise, a very, very fun entry into the series. Did things a little bit different. The setting was fun. I really enjoyed the opening and closing to it. And yeah, just had fun with it. So that's Evil Dead Rise. Next up, we have a 2-pack of Scream and Scream 6. So Scream 5 and Scream 6. Pretty much just waiting on Scream 4 now. I enjoy these movies. Like I said earlier, there isn't really a bad entry into the Scream series for me. I enjoy all those movies. Next up, we have the animated movie of Super Mario Brothers. This was a fun movie. I really, really enjoyed it. I do have a soft spot for that early 90s live action movie, as bad as it's considered. But this was a fun movie. I really, really enjoyed it. It was colourful. It had fun characters, fun moments in it. It was just a joy of a film, really. Next up, we have Avatar: The Way of Water. I wasn't a massive fan of this film. It's got some good things in it. There is a solid movie in there, I think, if it had been trimmed down. But I don't know. I just felt like we were retreading old ground with this movie. The CGI in it looks absolutely stellar, though. Next up as well, we have The Batman. Really good crime detective movie. Really, really dark film. And yeah, really enjoyed this. It's a solid Batman movie, in my opinion. Next up from Damien Chazelle, we have Babylon. This was just this decade's Wolf of Wall Street for me. Not as crazy or as mental as that film, but it's up there. Some of the stuff in the beginning of this movie is just really, really out there. But yeah, really, really solid film. Great performances. I just loved it. Just tipped its hat to cinema towards the end of that film. Next up, we have Zissou. This was a really, really good sort of revenge thriller about this prospector who has his gold stolen by these Nazis, and he just wants to get away from them, but they just are on the hunt for him. Really, really intense stuff. Really enjoyed it. So yeah, that's Zissou. Talk to Me. Yeah, this movie had some good things in it, but there were some things I just didn't like. The cast of characters in this, they just weren't very likable at all, in my opinion. But interesting premise. Next up with Cate Blanchett, we have Tar, a very good performance-driven movie, but just not that rewatchable. From Spielberg, we have The Fabelmans. A tad little bit overrated, in my opinion. I still like the movie, but not one of Spielberg's best, unfortunately. I just didn't like the cast in that film. That's all. It just didn't work for me, particularly Michelle Williams. Next up, we have Tom Cruise in Top Gun Maverick, an absolute reference disc of a 4K. This one, just stellar movie. I haven't heard anyone really say a bad word about that film. The Northman, absolutely phenomenal film from Robert Eggers. Really, really enjoyed this one. Great looking 4K as well. Don't Worry Darling. Bit of a mixed reception from this one. People either seem to really enjoy or despise this movie. I had fun with it. I enjoyed it. I didn't know what the twist was going in, and I was pleasantly surprised. I thought it looked really good as well. May not work on the rewatch value all that much, but still a solid film in my opinion. Baz Luhrmann's Elvis. The opening to this was just really weak, but it got stronger and it tightened up towards the middle of the movie. Bullet Train with Brad Pitt. Very, very fun film. Really, really enjoyed this one. From Jordan Peele, we have Nope. Really, really fun movie. I enjoyed it. I thought the characters in it were a lot of fun. It's not for everyone, though. It definitely isn't. There's some strange concepts going on in that film. There was a point in it where I was like really, really excited and tensed up by it, but the outcome of the scene really let me down. I think if you've seen the movie, you probably know what I'm on about. Michael Bay's Ambulance. It's kind of Michael Bay's demo reel. This movie, it's just him doing what he does best. I didn't think the story was all that great, but the techniques were pretty good. The cameras and the drones and that. The Lost City. This was a fun little comedy. Really, really enjoyed it. Didn't reinvent the wheel at all, but fun to see Daniel Radcliffe play the villain. Next up, we have Smile. This was a really good horror film. Went to the cinema to see it. I really, really enjoyed it. But again, one of these horror films that's not for everyone. One of my favourite comic book movies ever. This was just a Spider-Man celebration, and that is No Way Home. Yeah, one of the worst kept secrets in Hollywood with this movie, but yeah, 4K of it looks absolutely great. Really, really enjoyed it. So yeah, No Way Home. We've just had the sequel to this be released in cinemas, and I really, really do hope in the future we do get that third movie as well. So we have Dune Part 1. Yeah, really enjoyed this. It's a visual spectacle. Denis Villeneuve just knows how to make a very, very pleasing movie for the eye. So yeah, that's Dune. And next up from Edgar Wright, we have, yeah, one of my favourite movies of the last couple of years, and it is Last Night in Soho. Just loved this movie. I loved everything about it. I loved the setting. It just kind of mixed all these genres in a blender, and it just really worked for me. Really, really awesome film. So yeah, that is Last Night in Soho. So next up, we'll be going into some special editions and then into some Vinegar Syndrome and Scream Factory 4K releases. So first up, this one's from Warner Brothers, and it is Batman Mask of the Phantasm. So this is a steelbook release, comes in a bit of a flimsy box. Wish it had come in hard cases to some more of the Warner Brothers releases I'll be getting into later. But yeah, this is an amazing Batman movie, crams so much into the short run time, and I just absolutely love it. So that's Batman Mask of the Phantasm. Next up, if I can fit this into the screen, we have the Harry Potter sort of Hogwarts edition. So this is a great set. It's a bit of a pain in the backside to get into, but I really, really love it. It's a great sort of release and well put together box set of the Hogwarts Express. So yeah, that's pretty much the Hogwarts Express set that we get. But inside it, what we do get is this Amaray. We get 3 Amarays, but this is the chunky one. This is the 4K set, so this has all 8 movies inside, and yeah, they look absolutely great on 4K, it has to be said. Next up, we have the 4K. This is an Italian release of Ghostbusters. So this is a great set. This has got all 3 movies in that we've got so far. So yeah, we get just some standard Amarays on the inside. So we do have the first movie, but like I said, it is the Italian release, so you do have some foreign text on there. So that's the first movie. We also get Ghostbusters 2. I really like the use of purple on this one. But yeah, it's a good little underrated sequel, I think, Ghostbusters 2. And then, of course, we have Ghostbusters Afterlife. It is called Ghostbusters Legacy on this. I don't know why, but when you watch the movie, it does say Afterlife. So yeah, that's pretty much the Ghostbusters release. Next up, we've got the 50 years celebration box set of the Godfather movies. Now, whether you love or hate these movies, I personally really, really enjoy them. I think the first 2 are some of the best movies ever made. But everything on the inside of this box is just absolutely great. I really, really enjoy it. All the special features, everything all the hard work that's gone into it. But the box itself is very, very disappointing. It's made of some rigid hard cardboard, but the glue they've used is just absolutely terrible. The box kind of collapses under its own weight, and it's just a poorly thought out structure. The durability is just isn't there, which is a damn shame, because it could have been an amazing release otherwise. But yeah, next up we have from I want to say this is One Click Edition. Film Arena, we have Zack Snyder's Justice League. So yeah, this contains 2 special editions of the 4K and the Blu-ray. But yeah, these box sets are really, really nice. I only have 2 editions from this label. So the first one I've got is Zack Snyder's Justice League. And looking onto the 4K set that comes with that, it's a nice box, but it comes with an amazing lenticular cover as well. I hope that's coming across well, but yeah, it just looks absolutely phenomenal. Really, really awesome set. And then as well, the other Film Arena edition I have is the Forrest Gump box set. So this is an amazing release. It has 2 Blu-rays and a 4K inside. So yeah, it just really looks nice on the shelf. Absolutely awesome box set. These are limited as well. They do have limited numbers. But yeah, just an absolutely phenomenal, well thought out set. So you do get some cracking items on the inside. So yeah, moving into Vinegar Syndrome now. The first 4K I have is Freeway with Reese Witherspoon and Kiefer Sutherland. So this is kind of like a bit more of a grounded version of Little Red Riding Hood. Very loose, but yeah, really enjoy this film. Have a lot of fun with it. Next up, we've got this special edition from Vinegar Syndrome of Paul Verhoeven's Showgirls. Yeah, not a great movie, but an entertaining one to say the least. And of course, the same can be said as well for Roadhouse. I have an absolute blast with this film. Very entertaining. Quotable lines. Patrick Swayze's firing at all pistons in this movie. And yeah, it's so fun. So coming up next, we have a movie from Blue Underground on 4K, and it is The Final Countdown. This was an interesting time travel war movie that, yeah, I just had fun with this film. I thought it was good. I didn't think it was amazing or anything like that, but it had a good solid cast. And then moving into the 4K releases from Scream Factory. First one we've got is Alligator. So this is a good creature feature movie from the 80s. Not amazing, but had fun with it to say the least. Next up, we have The Sword and the Sorcerer as well. So, yeah, pretty much does exactly what it says on the tin. It's a fun movie. It's got a cool looking sword in it as well in the movie, so it's a decent looking weapon. Next up, we have one of my favourite horror movies. This is a great anthology movie, and it is George A. Romero's Creepshow. So, yeah, a lot of fun, this film. Great stories in there, and yeah, I just have an absolute blast with it. Speaking of having a blast, this has been slowly becoming one of my favourite horror films, and it is a movie from the early 80s, and it is the original My Bloody Valentine. Absolutely brilliant film. Really love this one. Do make sure though that when you watch this film, watch the uncut version, because pretty much 99% of the gore was cut from this movie, and it's been put back in this pretty much seamless restoration from Scream Factory, and it just looks absolutely phenomenal. So that's My Bloody Valentine. Next up, we have Night of the Demons. This is a fun horror film. Yeah, it just doesn't do anything special, but it's very entertaining. Really enjoy it. Next up, we have Tobe Hooper's The Funhouse. Not one of his best movies, but I enjoyed this one. I had fun with the third act in the movie. Thought it was quite entertaining. Another Christmas movie from Bob Clark, and we have Black Christmas. So yeah, very cool slasher. I think this has pretty much put slashers on the map, to be honest, Black Christmas. But yeah, good solid horror movie. Next up, we have one of the best zombie movies to come out of the 80s, in my opinion, and that is Return of the Living Dead. Very fun zombie movie. Yeah, just different to the Romero stuff we got, although this was kind of up against Day of the Dead, which again is another phenomenal zombie movie from the 80s. But yeah, this one takes more of a comedy angle, and it really works. So that's Return of the Living Dead. And next up, one of the best 80s horror remakes in The Blob. Very fun movie. Really some awesome creative kills in this film. Great effects, and yeah, it's up there with the likes of The Thing and The Fly. So yeah, that's The Blob. And we also have the first two Slumber Party Massacre movies, 1 and 2. These are fun, daft little movies that were just, yeah, very entertaining and very enjoyable. So, yeah, Slumber Party Massacre movies. And next up, we're going into one of the top tier film series in horror. Kicking it off with John Carpenter's Halloween. yeah, one of the best horror movies ever made, a masterclass in sound design for me, and yeah, just a wonderful, wonderful film. So that's Halloween. Then of course we have the follow-up in Halloween 2, a straight direct continuation from the first movie. Really, really enjoy this one. Not as good, of course, but yeah, really enjoyable. And then we have, in my opinion, the massively underrated, but it's finding its feet, Halloween 3, Season of the Witch. I think people judge this movie on what it wasn't rather than what it was, because this is a great standalone story. It really is quite creepy and effective, and it's a Halloween staple. It just drips everything you'd expect from the season of Halloween. So yeah, really, really awesome film. And next up, they kind of went back to basics with Halloween 4, Return of Michael Myers. It's decent enough. It's not great, but I enjoy it for what it is. So yeah, that's Halloween 4. And next up, we have The Revenge of Michael Myers in Halloween 5. Not great. The mask looks like dog shit. It's not a great movie, this one, unfortunately. It's got a few good creative kills in there, but the way Halloween 4 ends, I expected a lot from Halloween 5 and it just didn't deliver. So next up we have The Curse of Michael Myers. This is, again, it's probably better than 5 in my opinion, but it's still not amazing. But yeah, that's The Curse of Michael Myers. Next up we have H2O, 20 years later sequel. So I think this movie kind of ignores the previous ones and is kind of like a direct sequel, but it's fine. It is what it is. I like the look of the movie. There's some fun characters in there, but yeah, it is what it is. And next, of course, we've got the absolutely atrocious Halloween Resurrection, but I still liked this movie when I rewatched it on 4K. I don't know what it was. I know this is a bad movie, but the 4K just seemed to enhance my enjoyment with the film. But yeah, that's Halloween Resurrection. So next up we have one of my childhood favourites, even though I never knew the name of this movie growing up as a kid, and it is Richard Donner's The Goonies. Yeah, just what a fantastic adventure movie. I really, really enjoy this film. I know some people who may be discovering this film nowadays may not tend to gravitate towards the child characters in this movie, which is absolutely fine. I get those criticisms, but for me, and I think for a lot of people who grew up with this film, this movie is just a joy and just such an adventure. So 4K of it looks absolutely exceptional as well. So yeah, that is Richard Donner's The Goonies. So next up we have two of my favourite trilogies of all time. The first being the Indiana Jones trilogy. So here we have on Steelbook, Raiders of the Lost Ark, Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, and Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. The only one I'm missing on 4K, funnily enough, is Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, but I'm just in no rush to pick that movie up whatsoever. But yeah, really, really enjoy all three of these movies. I have a blast with them, and Last Crusade for me has the absolute perfect ending to a trilogy. Absolutely love it. So yeah, that's the Indiana Jones trilogy. And next up, we also have another one of my favourite trilogies of all time, and that is the Back to the Future trilogy. Absolutely love all three of these movies. Very, very solid. Just a great 3-act structure with these movies. The first one still works great as a standalone, but parts 2 and 3 are equally as entertaining for me. I just have an absolute blast with all three of these movies. I can't watch one without the other two. I have an absolute ball with these movies. So yeah, that's the Back to the Future trilogy. So next I'll be moving in to my Second Sight 4K collection, but firstly I just wanted to talk about the Lord of the Rings on 4K as well. So yeah, this is the Middle-earth collection. This has all three of the Hobbit movies and the 3 Lord of the Rings movies directed by Peter Jackson. These look absolutely phenomenal. Well presented. Really, really have a blast with these films. Movies I tend to normally watch around about Christmas time, but yeah, very, very entertaining stuff with these. Look amazing on 4K. So yeah, moving in to the Second Sight releases now. First one we have is pretty much David Cronenberg's newest movie, I believe, and that is Crimes of the Future. Very, very weird and bizarre movie, but I liked it nonetheless. Had fun with it. Next up, we had one of these awesome French extremity movies. Very, very violent, very, very suspenseful stuff, and that is High Tension. Yeah, really, really, these movies are just the epitome of violence. Not for everyone, but yeah, just very, very uncomfortable watches. Next up, we've got a movie from George Romero, the first of two to appear on this in this section. We have Martin. So this is a very, very different take on a vampire movie, but I really enjoyed this one. The ending really, really worked for me. So yeah, that's Martin. Next up, we have Dog Soldiers on 4K. So yeah, this was, again, another movie that wasn't love at first sight. I still don't really love this movie. I do think it is pretty good, though. Pretty solid werewolf film. But yeah, it's got some really good acting in it. And yeah, it's very, very solid. But I just don't love this movie as much as most people. But I still think it's pretty good. So that's Dog Soldiers. Next up, we've got an early movie from Martin Scorsese, and that is Mean Streets. I'm still yet to check out the 4K on this one, but enjoy this film, just not as much as his other stuff like Wolf of Wall Street, Departed, Goodfellas, Casino, but it's still a very, very solid movie. So that's Mean Streets. Next up, we've got a more recent movie, and I absolutely love this film. I had a blast with it, and that is The Guest. This is probably due a rewatch for me because I had an absolute ball with this film with Dan Stevens. Thought he was absolutely amazing. Really, really suspenseful and riveting stuff. So yeah, that's The Guest. And next up, we have one of the most famous and influential horror movies of all time with the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So yeah, a fantastic, dirty, gritty, grimy horror movie that I just, yeah, really, really enjoy. So that's the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Next up was first time watch for me, I think late last year, and that is Picnic at Hanging Rock. I enjoyed this movie. I thought it was pretty good. Took a complete gamble on getting the boxed edition, but it paid off because I really did enjoy the movie. So yeah, that's Picnic at Hanging Rock. Next up, we've got a movie from 2011, which I just absolutely fell in love with this film on second viewing, funnily enough, and that is Drive with Ryan Gosling. Didn't like it the first time, but on repeat viewing, the movie massively improved for me. The soundtrack, absolutely phenomenal. The cast is brilliant in it as well, and I just have a great time with this one. So yeah, that is Drive. And bringing a close to the second sights is George Romero's Dawn of the Dead. One of, if not the best zombie film of all time. What a setting. So simplistic and yet very, very relevant. Zombie apocalypse, and we're going to hold out in this shopping mall. Just what a wonderful, wonderful movie. The effects in this movie, I think, are a little bit dated from Tom Savini, but I give the time that this movie was made, you know, I'll pass. It still looks good. This for me is probably the scariest zombie movie. I saw this way too young, and this movie has given me recurring nightmares, but it's an amazing 4K and it just looks absolutely stellar. I wouldn't have it any other way. So yeah, that's Dawn of the Dead. So in this next section, I'm going to run through these as quickly as possible because I have done a dedicated video to this label, but these are all the Arrow 4Ks that I own. So the first one we've got is Silent Running, very kindly sent to me by Jason and Soph. Really, really enjoyed that film. Next up, we have The Grudge collection, but it's only the first movie in this collection that's on 4K, but very, very creepy film. Really, really enjoyed it. Next up on 4K, we have the Psycho collection. Absolutely amazing that these 4 movies are in this box set on 4K together. I don't think we'll ever get another release by anyone, to be honest, with those. We have the Bruce Lee at Golden Harvest collection. So this is an amazing set. I haven't seen these movies since the VHS days, but I'm looking forward to getting into this when I've got the time. So absolutely phenomenal, stunning set. And then next up, we've got pretty much the usual sort of special editions dedicated to a single film. So we've got Phenomena, getting into the Dario Argento stuff now. Great little horror film with Jennifer Connelly. Next up, we've got one of the best ones from 1975, in my opinion, and that is Dario Argento's Deep Red. Great creepy doll in this film as well. Really, really enjoyed that one. Next up, we've got Tenebrae. This one found itself on the Video Nasties list as well. But yeah, really, really awesome movie from Argento. Same can be said for these next two as well. We have The Cat o' Nine Tails. Really good, creepy little movie. And as well, sort of wrapping up the Argento section, we have Bear with the Crystal Plumage. Yeah, Arrow have just done an amazing job with the transfers and these sets as well. So next up, we've got Lucio Fulci's The House by the Cemetery. Really cool little creepy movie. Really enjoyed it. Same can be said as well for this one. Mario Bava's Blood and Black Lace. Really, really awesome artwork on that one. Enjoyed the 4K too. One of the best horror movies from the 90s. We have Tony Todd in Candyman. Really, really awesome violent movie with a great concept. Very, very divisive film. Next, in my opinion, I absolutely love this film. Hated it the first time, but it's really grown on me. Donnie Darko with Jake Gyllenhaal. Really, really awesome film. I absolutely love this one. Understand why people don't gravitate towards it, though. Can completely get that. The Best Picture winner now from 1987, and that is The Last Emperor. Not an amazing film for me. One of these sort of forgettable movies to win Best Picture at the Oscars. Next up, we've got David Cronenberg's Videodrome. Really enjoy this one with James Woods and Debbie Harry. Pretty awesome concept as well. Quite creepy in places. And carrying on into more David Cronenberg films, we have Naked Lunch with Peter Weller. I think this was the movie that Peter Weller did instead of RoboCop 3. But yeah, really enjoyed this one. Quite creepy. Got some really good imagery. Next up from the early 90s, probably my favourite live action interpretation of the character, Kevin Costner in Robin Hood. Yeah, really enjoy this. Alan Rickman hams it up once again as the villain in The Sheriff of Nottingham. Really, really love this film. It's not perfect by any means, but I have a blast with it nonetheless. Now, speaking of having a blast, this next movie, Tony Scott, written by Tarantino, True Romance, absolutely phenomenal film. Love the ending to this movie. Just absolutely great, and it has that quippy Tarantino dialogue that we all know and love. Brian De Palma's Carlito's Way, one of my favourite Al Pacino movies. If not, I slightly prefer this over Scarface. I know that might be sacrilege, but I just have a better time with that movie. It's much more rewatchable for me. For me, personally, the best werewolf movie ever made, An American Werewolf in London from John Landis. Absolutely love this one. Some great practical effects, and possibly the best werewolf transformation ever put to film. Next up, we have from the 70s, The Warriors. Really enjoyed this one. I think it was a late 70s movie. But yeah, really, really awesome concept, this one. Great gang movie as well. Next up from Harrison Ford, the only time Harrison Ford I think has been nominated for an Oscar in acting. Witness, great concept, great movie. Absolutely have a blast with this one. Just, yeah, got some powerhouse acting in it. Next up, we have David Lynch's Dune as well. Not his finest hour, in my opinion, and I think he knows that as well. But I enjoyed the movie for what it is. It's not great. It's not breaking any grounds or anything like that. It's definitely flawed, but enjoyed it for what it was. Next up, probably one of the sexiest movies I ever own, Wild Things. This movie is just absolutely insane with its twists and turns. Yeah, bit of an erotic thriller, but have fun with this movie. So that's Wild Things. Next up, we have the two box sets of Tremors and Tremors 2. Yeah, these are fun movies. The first one's, in my opinion, the better movie, but Tremors 2 is a lot of fun as well. Kevin Bacon not being in it does hurt the movie, but it's not awful. It's not awful. It does have some merit to it. Next up, one of my favourite films of all time. This movie is an absolute masterpiece in my opinion, and it is RoboCop. Talked about this movie a fair bit, but yeah, it's just relentless with its violence. Absolutely love it. And then topping off the Arrow 4Ks, we have from Wes Craven, The Hills Have Eyes. Not Wes Craven's finest hour in my opinion, but I still enjoy this movie. I do prefer the remake ever so slightly, but I still think this is a decent little horror film. It's not for everyone, but I have fun with it. So yeah, that's The Hills Have Eyes. So coming up next, I'll be going into some of these Steelbook libraries that I own now. So the first one that we've got is the David Gordon Green Halloween trilogy. So yeah, these movies, again, aren't for everyone. Very, very divisive, especially the third movie. But I enjoyed all three of these movies. I've got to say it. I've got to be honest. I know they're divisive. I just took them at face value for what they were, and I still had an absolute blast with them. They're not perfect. They nowhere near touch the Carpenter original, but for me, they still have a great atmosphere about them. I know there's so many issues with them, obviously creative decisions, especially in that third movie, that a lot of people just couldn't get on board with, and I just absolutely understand it. But for me, I enjoyed these three movies for what they were. So that's a David Gordon Green Halloween trilogy. Next up, we have a series of movies that I just can't really get into, and it is The Matrix. I do still like these movies, I just rarely rewatch them. The first one for me is probably the best, but yeah, I think the sequels kind of steadily get worse as they go on, but they are what they are. I guess it was a pioneering movie of special effects back in 1999, but they're just not my favourite Keanu Reeves movies that I go back to a hell of a lot. So yeah, that's the Matrix collection. Next up, we have the Mad Max anthology. So yeah, this has the 4 movies in it. Mad Max and Mad Max 2 probably being my favourites, then followed by Fury Road, and then Beyond Thunderdome. That movie's a bit of a struggle for me to get through. But yeah, I enjoy these movies. I have fun with them. The second one probably being my favourite, but Fury Road was a great return to form, and it's so creative, that movie, with its chase sequences. It's so entertaining and it looks amazing, and I'm looking forward to the prequel, Furiosa, when we get that. So yeah, that's the Mad Max anthology. Next up, we have the Rambo collection. So yeah, the first movie is one of the best movies ever made. It still holds up. It's still relevant. Time hasn't dented it in any way, shape or form. But yeah, these are 5 movies that I'm just absolutely dying to check out on 4K. I haven't got around to watching them yet. But yeah, this is just an amazing 4K box set. But yeah, it just has an absolutely fantastic steelbooks inside it. Rambo 4 for me is probably the best sequel out of the series. I just love the relentless violence in that movie. It just doesn't hold up. It's in your face, and it won't get out of your face no matter what. It's just absolutely a gorgeous, violent ballet. But yeah, these are just some great movies, very, very entertaining. So that's the Rambo collection. Next up, we have the Christopher Reeve Superman collection. So this has Superman 1 to 4. Yeah, the first 2 movies, very, very rewatchable, staples of my childhood. I probably prefer the second one, just because it cuts out all that stuff with Krypton and Clark Kent becoming Superman. It gets straight into it. But I appreciate the build-up of the first one a hell of a lot more now. I just didn't used to like it as a child. I just thought it dragged on too much. I didn't really get it. I didn't understand the beginning of the movie at all. But I really do appreciate it in a whole new, different light now. Yeah, 3 and 4. This may be controversial, but I think part 3 might be my least favorite. I just don't know why that is. It has such miscasting with Richard Pryor for me. I just don't know. I just think he's so shackled to the script in that movie. Superman 4 it's a bad movie, but it's entertaining in all the wrong ways. It really is. That's why I probably like it more than 3, because I know it's bad, I know it's trash, I know it's awful, but I just get so much of a kick out of it when the bad stuff in that movie is just happening all in its glory. But yeah, those are the Superman movies. The first 2 for me are just absolutely great superhero films. And then the last Steelbook library that I have is the Jurassic World collection. So this has all the 6 movies that we've got so far. Whether they're doing any more or not, I don't know. But yeah, fantastic Steelbook set. The first movie is probably the only one worth watching, in all honesty. Some of the sequels are fine. Some of them are better than others. But yeah, the first movie is just an absolute masterpiece from Steven Spielberg. I absolutely love it. It knew when and when not to use CGI and practical effects. It blends the two perfectly. But it's just an amazing story about this potential dinosaur park where they've cloned dinosaurs, and what they're going to do. Is this the right decision? That's what the questions that the movies ask. And yeah, it's just a great film. Steven Spielberg absolutely knocks it out of the park. But yeah, the sequels are fine as well if you want more. But yeah, that's the Jurassic Park collection. So next up now, we've got pretty much the 8 films that we've got from the Film Vault range. So the first one we have is Blade Runner from Ridley Scott, 1982. One of my favourite sci-fi film noir movies. I have an absolute great time with this one. I know some people don't really like its slow pacing, but for me it absolutely works. And again, another movie that just was not love at first sight. Had to grow and marinate with this one, but I absolutely love this film now. Rutger Hauer, one of the best villains as Roy Batty, one of the best Harrison Ford movies, obviously as Deckard the Blade Runner. So yeah, absolutely awesome movie. So that's Blade Runner. Next up we have probably Martin Scorsese's best film, and that is Goodfellas. Yeah, absolutely shocked me to the core with the violence in this movie. It's not over the top like movies like the 4th Rambo film or RoboCop. This is very, very grounded violence, and it knocks you sick for the first time you watch it. That opening sequence, there's so many people I know who've said that horrified them to the core, and I was exactly the same. I can quite comfortably watch it now, but it's a rough part of the movie, and then it shows up later on as well, and it catches you off guard then. But yeah, it's just a great gangster movie, one of the best. Really, really enjoy this one. So yeah, that's Goodfellas. Speaking of awesome gangster movies, coming in next we have Brian De Palma's Scarface. One of Al Pacino's best movies, one of De Palma's best movies. It's just a great movie of rags to riches, going about it all the wrong way though, through the drug system. And yeah, the movie has an absolutely heartbreaking ending for me. Not the final shot of the movie, but not far off. It's just a great film, great characters, great music. Yeah, absolutely love it. So that's Scarface. Next up, a bit of a more recent movie, and for me, I just don't think this film belongs on this label. And it is 1917, and the reason why I don't think it belongs on this label is because it's just too new of a movie. It needs to stand the test of time like these other ones. But I'm not saying the movie won't stand the test of time, it just hasn't passed that test yet. It probably will, but will isn't isn't a done deal. But it's still an amazing film from Sam Mendes. Great World War One movie, and Roger Deakins is just firing at all pistons as a cinematographer. So, yeah, that's 1917. Next up, we have probably the greatest prison movie of all time, The Shawshank Redemption. Highest rated movie on IMDb. So rewatchable. It just works so well for me, this movie. Everything about the script and what we see in the film just works so well. The narration from Morgan Freeman's character. Yeah, Tim Robbins is great as Andy Dufresne. Really awesome movie. Really enjoy it. And again, the 4K of this film, the outside scenes towards the end of the movie just elevate why 4K is so good. It's just an awesome looking movie, and just it's so rewatchable for me. So that's The Shawshank Redemption. Next up, we have pretty much a masterclass movie from Spielberg, Jaws. Yeah, just an exceptional film. Absolutely wonderful. Great tale about this beach that, you know, has this shark, this man-eating shark, and it's just absolutely harrowing. What are they going to do? How are they going to deal with this? Great characters, great scenes, absolutely phenomenal film. Just, yeah, awesome. So, yeah, that's Jaws. Next up, we have Stanley Kubrick's Space Odyssey. 2001, A Space Odyssey. Yeah, didn't love this movie the first time I watched it, but again, I still don't love it now, but it's growing on me. It's a very required taste, this film. I think some people find it boring. It's got some very interesting themes going on in the movie, and the ending is just a visual treat for the eyes. So that is 2001, A Space Odyssey. And the final film we've got so far for the Film Vault range is Ron Howard's Apollo 13. Yeah, very much coming out at the height of Tom Hanks's powers in the 90s. Coming off of films like Forrest Gump, Philadelphia, Toy Story, Apollo 13. So, yeah, really awesome space movie. Great cast as well. Bill Paxton, Kevin Bacon, Tom Hanks, to name but a few. Absolutely great space movie. So, yeah, that is Apollo 13. So heading into the final segment of this video now, I'll be looking at some of my Warner Brothers special editions on 4K. So coming up first, we have the first movie of Christopher Nolan's Batman trilogy, and it is Batman Begins. Really solid start to this trilogy. Really enjoy this film. Have a great time with it. Yeah, just great starting point, great origin story, great superhero movie. Really enjoy this one. So that is Batman Begins. Next up, we have the second entry, and that is The Dark Knight. Yeah, this movie blew me away, but I think after years of rewatching it and coming to terms with it, the movie does have some cracks for me. I don't think it's this flawless masterpiece, but my God, it is a really solid movie. I think most of us who saw this, when we came out of the cinema from seeing it, we were just blown away by it, completely flawed. We just didn't know these types of movies could exist in this genre, and it's just an excellent, well done film. So that is The Dark Knight. And next up, finally, closing that chapter, we have The Dark Knight Rises. Not a fan of this film, I've got to admit. I think Tom Hardy as Bane's pretty solid, but overall, I'm sorry to say I found the film a bit disappointing. Next up, we have a Christmas staple for me, and that is Jon Favreau's Elf with Will Ferrell. Not the best Christmas movie ever, but my God, the season is just absolutely so well represented in this film. It just oozes Christmas from start to finish, and I just have a blast with it. So that's Elf. Next up, we have an absolutely fantastic prison movie, and that is The Green Mile. So well acted, amazing story. But for me, the one thing I don't really like about this film is the supernatural element. I think it ruins the film. I think it would have worked so much better as a grounded prison movie. But yeah, I don't know. I know I'm not alone on thinking that it's just the supernatural side of it takes me out of the film. But other than that, The movie just has brilliance in abundance. Next up we have Tobe Hooper's Poltergeist. Really, really fun film, but it's not, it's more of a comfort horror film. It doesn't have, it doesn't petrify you or scare you to the level of some other films, but I think what went on behind the scenes was a bit more interesting than what we got in the film. It's heartbreaking, some of the real life stuff that actually happened behind the scenes of Poltergeist. Very, very interesting, to say the least, but yeah, it's a good, solid film. I do enjoy it. Next up, we have a really fun vampire film from the 80s, and that is The Lost Boys. Very, very rewatchable for me. Great soundtrack, great cast of characters, and yeah, the movie's just a ton of fun. So yeah, that's The Lost Boys. Next up, we've got a movie that I know a lot of people love, but for me, I've just haven't got the taste for it yet, and that is Training Day. Great solid performance from Denzel Washington, but yeah, I don't know. I need to give the movie a rewatch. Unfortunately, this is one of the worst releases that Warner Bros. Have done. It's very, very bare bones, but I wanted to get it in the collection because it just looks nice on the shelf. But yeah, need to give the film a rewatch. That's Training Day. And speaking of giving films a rewatch, I haven't seen this since DVD, and that is Zack Snyder's 300. Visually, I think his movies are just absolutely exceptional, but there just always seems to be a missing ingredient from his films, and I don't know what it is that just stops them from being great. Not my favourite Zack Snyder film. I think that crown would have to go to Watchmen, but yeah, it's a good, solid movie nonetheless. Really, really enjoy it from a visual standpoint. And next up, we have what's considered, I think, amongst film criticism and film, the pioneering of filmmaking critics. I think I've considered this to be the best movie ever made, and it is Orson Welles' Citizen Kane. Yeah, I really enjoyed the movie. It's just, it's got a simple premise about it, about this child who was taken away and became this millionaire, billionaire, a very, very rich individual through sort of newspapers, and his dying words were Rosebud, and everyone's trying to figure out what Rosebud is, what it means, and when you find out at the end, it all just makes sense. Really, really enjoy this one. Really have a great time with it. So that's Citizen Kane. And speaking of Hollywood classics, the next one, Gene Kelly, Singing in the Rain. Yet to check this out on 4K, but I think the colours in the movie are just gonna absolutely blow me away. Great soundtrack. Yeah, just a bit of a joy of a film to watch. So that's Singing in the Rain. Next up, we have another Hollywood classic, and that is Humphrey Bogart in Casablanca. I've watched this movie a couple of times now, and I've got to admit, it hasn't blown me away. I do really like the ending, but I don't know, maybe a couple more rewatches and I might finally get there. But yeah, that's Casablanca. Next up, we've got a movie from the early 70s, which I just absolutely adore, a childhood staple of mine, and it is Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. Yeah, Gene Wilder absolutely kills it for me as Willy Wonka. Just a great premise, great story, absolutely just love the film. It's just so much fun. This is a fine example of 4K lending itself so well to an older movie. It just looks absolutely brilliant. So yeah, that's Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. Next up, we have Stanley Kubrick's war masterpiece, and that is Full Metal Jacket. A movie of two halves, definitely. I'm sort of very much in the camp that I prefer the first half. All the boot camp stuff in this movie is just absolutely great. The drill sergeant is just firing at all pistons. He takes no prisoners with his insults. I just absolutely love it. And then the second half of the movie, we're actually in the war itself. But yeah, it's such a well done movie. So many great characters. Really, really enjoy this one. So that's Full Metal Jacket. And alongside that, one of the best war movies ever made by Stanley Kubrick, we have one of the best horror movies ever made by Stanley Kubrick, and that is The Shining. Just an excellent movie. Very, very claustrophobic. Absolutely love Jack Nicholson's performance in this film. He steals the show as Jack Torrance. Just a very, very unsettling movie. Very, very creepy. It just drips atmosphere. The soundtrack is just chilling. That opening score, yeah, it sends shivers down my spine. It's just a creepy, creepy movie, and I absolutely love it. Even though the author, Stephen King, wasn't a big fan of this, I still think this is such a well-made movie. It just displays Kubrick's talent all over the place. So that's The Shining. Next up, we have one of my favourite horror movies of all time. I went to see this at the cinema in 4K, and I had an absolute blast with this movie, and it is The Exorcist. Yeah. The fear factor with this movie, I think, does not hold up today, because we have so many horror films today that came after this. But in 1973, I just look at all the horror movies to come out before, and we didn't really have anything of this caliber. You know, you had Rosemary's Baby, Night of the Living Dead, you had the Hammer films, and you had the Universal films, and that was pretty much the bulk of horror back then. All the slasher stuff, all these possession movies came later, but this was one of the first of its kind, and it still blows me away. It still sends shivers down my spine. It's just such a creepy movie. What do we do in this situation? And yeah, it's just so well done. Still holds up for me. But yeah, that's The Exorcist. And next up, we have, coming out pretty much the same year, we have Bruce Lee in a very different movie, Enter the Dragon. Yeah, probably my favourite Bruce Lee movie, to be honest. I really, really enjoy this film. Have a great time with it. John Saxon, Bolo Young as well. Yeah, just a great, great movie. So, yeah, really fun martial arts venture. So, yeah, that's Enter the Dragon. Next up, we have a bit more of a recent movie, although it's hard to believe that this movie's coming up to 10 years old now, and that is Edge of Tomorrow. Yeah, Tom Cruise, Emily Blunt. Really awesome sci-fi war movie with hints and elements of Groundhog Day thrown in. Really, really awesome film. Just really, really enjoy it. So, yeah, that's Edge of Tomorrow. Next up, we have one of my favourite superhero movies of all time in Tim Burton's Batman. I had to get this on 4K. It's one of those movies that I have no idea when the first time I saw it. It's always been imprinted in my mind. And I just love this film. I love Jack Nicholson as the Joker. I love Michael Keaton as Batman and Bruce Wayne. Yeah, I just adore this movie. I probably looking through it through nostalgic eyes. There may be better Batman movies than this, but for me, this holds a dear place to my heart. So that's Tim Burton's Batman. And next up, we have Tim Burton's follow-up in Batman Returns. Yeah, really, really awesome follow-up. I really do like this film. I love the Christmas setting. I love Danny DeVito as the Penguin. I love how his plans in the movie, whenever they get thwarted by Batman, they just become more sinister and more dark as they go on. Him as a creature as well, he's just so grotesque. Michelle Pfeiffer as Catwoman's just absolutely brilliant as well. Christopher Walken, kind of as a third villain in the movie, is great. And I just absolutely love it. Just an awesome, awesome follow-up. It may not be as good. It's more of a Tim Burton movie than a Batman movie, but I still love it nonetheless. I just have a great time with Batman Returns. So, yeah, that's Batman Returns. Next up, we have Batman Forever. The first Batman movie I remember seeing at the cinema when I was a kid. I have fun with this movie. It is definitely flawed. Tommy Lee Jones is just trying to out Jim Carrey in this movie. Val Kilmer, say what you will as him as Bruce Wayne and Batman. I have a fun time with this film. I've got so much nostalgia for it. The soundtrack is absolutely great. It probably is better than the movie, but yeah, it's a flawed movie, but I still enjoy it. So that's Batman Forever. And next up we have Batman and Robin. Very, very debatable whether a film of this caliber should get this kind of special edition treatment. But again, the movie's bad, but it's entertaining. I just enjoy it for all the wrong reasons. All the hammy acting, the miscast cast members of this movie. It's just daft, balls to the walls, entertainment. There's just nothing logical about the film. It's just so bad, it's great. And I just love every second of it. So that's Batman and Robin. And then closing this video with my final 4K that I own is National Lampoon's Vacation. Yeah, really, really fun movie. Really, really enjoy this one. Chevy Chase is great as Clark Griswold. Have a fun time with this movie. Love the ending. I love the build-up. Love a lot about this film. It's one of the best comedies to come out of the 80s. Really, really enjoy it. John Hughes, again, shows to the world why he was such a great writer. And yeah, just a great, great comedy film. So that is National Lampoon's Vacation. So that is it, guys. Those are all of my entire 4Ks that I have in my collection. Gonna leave the video there, guys, and say thanks very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you're still here after all this time. But yeah, stay safe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.